Rahman,
Present.
Long.
Here.
Hall is absent with notice. Cavell is on his way. Smith Charles. Present.
You
Viper.
can hear her.
Hoffman.
He's out in the hallway.
Okay.
Somewhere too.
Gershenson. Here.
Lunchtime.
Markham.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Present.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Which item was that?
That's water, their water grant.
Yeah, we actually have them up early in the agenda. Certainly before all the budget stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we have approval of the minutes from August 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That was those three budget hearings in a row. Last week, 2 weeks ago? A few weeks ago. So I'll take a motion to approve all those. Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Charles. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have approval of today's agenda. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Smith Charles. All in favor of today's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have our public comment. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the committee with or anything that's on this agenda today? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one, I will close the first public comment and we'll move into communications. Item 7A, the 2024 third quarter service agreement report for IT.
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Smith Charles. Commissioner Cavell is here. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Oh. Oh, now it's saying oops,
E-vote?
yeah, e-vote,
Oops,
it's oops
oops.
still. Alright, so I did this last time. No, I got a oopsie still.
So you can do a voice vote.
I sort of have a question about the IT contract, if it's
Commissioner Cavell has a question, so before we vote, go ahead and ask your question. Our experts are here.
There's the in-county and the out-county, and is there a cost per service differential between being in-county and out-of-county? If so, how much is it?
Isn't it? There is no cost.
Okay, got it.
The question was, do we charge external counties the same as we do ourselves for the IT services? And the answer was
No.
no, we don't.
Wait, we do charge the same.
We charge the same.
Same rates.
Yes, okay. All right, with that, let's prompt the vote.
Oh, there we go. Hey,
Um,
came up. It's looking good when it comes up. Now I feel like Sally, you can start Sally's by me.
What's the hell?
Yeah, he gets
it, Phil gets it.
Marshall?
Yes.
No Justin either.
You didn't send me the memo.
Cavell? I
Yes.
Rahman?
Yes.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion carries. So that's it for IT. Next up, we have our Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee recommendations. We just went through in
Yeah, we wrong in
the
that. You can't.
EDI committee. Item 8A, donation of the surplus county office supplies pilot program. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Smith Charles, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Hi.
Hello again. For those who I have not yet introduced myself, my name is Kelly Humes and I'm the Sustainability Coordinator here at Oakland County. So the Office of Sustainability is looking to host an internal employee resource sharing event to use up excess office supplies like binders, sticky notes, coffee mugs that are currently sitting in storage closets. So we are seeking authorization to donate the excess items that are not picked up from the resource sharing event to local nonprofits within the county.
Anybody have any questions? Flesh this out pretty good in EDI, so. All right, seeing no
question out in that
questions,
meeting.
let's prompt the vote.
Sounds awesome.
Christensen? Yes. Malcolm?
Yes.
8 yeas, no nays?
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have item 8B, authorizing the issuance of bonds to fund improvements to the Clinton Oakland sewage disposal system.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Smith Charles, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Okay. Let's see, we have. Yeah. Morning again. Please introduce yourselves and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Eric McLaughlin, Dickinson Wright, Bond Counsel to the Water Resources Commissioner's Office for the issuance of these bonds.
I'm Ben Lewis, I'm Assistant Chief Engineer for the Water Resources Commissioner's Office. We're here requesting authorization for sale of not to exceed $100 million for the Clinton Oakland sewage disposal system for repair and rehabilitation of approximately 60,000 lineal feet of 42-inch, 48, and 54-inch sewer. This most of the work will be performed trenchless. Sewers will be lined. There may be some interior repairs, but few.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Hoffman.
Just curious, now the bonds will be repaid by users of the system.
Correct, the ratepayers, yes.
That's correct. The resolution authorizes the use of the revenues of the system to repay the bonds. The formal legal pledge, though, is the county's limited tax, full faith and credit, and general obligation.
Get a better deal that way.
At least that's the hope.
Commissioner Cavell.
It's a glass.
What is the I guess if you will, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but the estimated like interest rate for these bonds?
Steve, defer to Steve Burke on that.
Steve, they're asking.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Steve Burke from MFCI. So we're the financial advisor to WRC on these issues. And we reran the rates this morning. So the good news is rates have come down quite a bit the last 6 months. This morning, we sold these today. Our estimate is approximately 3.65%. These bonds, the first issue is not likely until January of 2025.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Commissioner Whiteberg.
We had this in economic development, so they're gonna do, in January, they're gonna do like 11 million and then another phase. So hopefully the trend stays, Steve, so it's keep going down.
That's correct. That's the plan as I
That's
understand
what we hope, right?
To the voters to increase knowledge.
All right, anybody else? Seeing nobody else, let's prompt the vote, please.
Long?
Yes.
Christensen? Yes. We have 8 yeas, no nays?
All right, motion carries. Item 8C is authorizing the issuance of bonds to fund improvements to the Huron Rouge sewage disposal system. Moved by Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Weipert.
This is a similar project to the Clinton Oakland, but in the Huron Rouge, it's a little bit smaller sewer. It's a 36-inch diameter sewer. And we're looking to rehabilitate approximately 16,700 lineal feet. And the project is located in the city of Novi.
Anybody have any questions about this one? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote, please.
Do that, you know, when you roll, doesn't
Cavell?
hit that
Where's
angle.
that?
Yep.
Here?
Yeah, it's new.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
So next time you roll,
Okay,
it's
motion
left.
carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Teacher, you know.
Okay, next up, we have Public Health and Safety Committee recommendations.
Try it.
Item 9A, a grant acceptance from the Michigan State Police for the 2024 Continuing Professional Education Pilot Program. Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Rahman.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
They're busy today, huh?
Yes, so Sheriff's Office sends their apologies and regards because they have the 9/11 ceremony
Oh, yeah.
and couldn't be here, so I'm going to pretend I know. So this is a new funding from the state. Earlier, last year, there was a new legislation to provide funding for more trainings, and this is the acceptance by Sheriff's Office. There was yesterday there was in public health and safety there was a question about the training hours. So everything is specified, and some hours for the training are mandated, but then some hours are giving Sheriff's Office ability to choose best fit for their officers.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on this one?
Excellent presentation.
Seeing no one, let's
Good job.
prompt
Hopefully
the
it's
vote.
not
In this money, we're
Did you try
usually
to
pretty
e-vote?
good about
See, that's what
saying
I,
okay.
e-vote and then it comes up. Did yours come up with e-vote then?
Although I will
Yes.
make a point,
Yeah, the-
It's a new feature.
I kind of off the cuff said, yeah, it's money come to us, so we're happy. There is a point at which we need to be looking at, does it cost us more to administer this grant than
Definitely.
the money that we're getting for it? I don't think this falls in that category, but I want that to always be in our minds.
I will relay the
New
message.
grants, we wanna make sure they're not costing us money to accept.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion carries.
308,000.
Good. Tim Minister, we better not get
Next
that
up,
correct.
we have item
Just
10, the departmental recommendations. The first one,
Could I just comment on this grant? I'm sorry, one
sure,
second.
Commissioner
So it is,
Gershenson.
thank you. It is requiring 4 hours of this, 8 hours of this, 8 hours of this. I'd like to get an update for when those trainings happen, to which officers. I think it's important for us to have that follow-up.
Follow-up feedback, can you? Okay, thank you, good point. All right, item 10A is the fiscal year 2024 third quarter financial forecast. We have Ms. Johnson. Moved by Commissioner Smith-Charles, supported by Commissioner Whitebird. All right,
Good afternoon, good morning, good
morning.
afternoon.
good news.
Thank you for allowing me to present this. This is the third quarter forecast from the 24. So we look at the 24 adopted budget, then we have amendments, forecasts, and the difference, and that's what we're looking at here. Based on the GAA, we come to you every quarter and give you an update on where we're at with our dollars and our budget. This report still is very similar to the reports you've seen historically. We are in the process of walking through these reports, and I think come next fiscal year, you guys will start seeing some real differences in the reports and what they look like, and we're hopeful that those changes to the reports will be very transparent and allow us, you guys to have a better understanding of what you're looking at. Although I do love coming in front of you every quarter and telling you about our finances, I think that it's important that you're able to look at a document and understand what's going on its face. And that's kind of our intention. So what I have before you, if you look at the summary by department, and I apologize, I'm not sure exactly what page that is in the PDF. You'll see the revenues, expenditures, and then kind of where we're at in totality. Where we're at for third quarter is a projection of a favorable revenue forecast of $3.4 million, a big piece of that is from the marijuana money. We've talked about it every quarter because we got that early in the year. So there's some additional tax dollars you'll see under taxes, and our investment income. We've been really careful the last couple of years because we sort of got burned in '22 when the market took a crash and we had a pretty significant market loss that we had to take in our statements. So we've been very conservative and, we're all kind of wondering what's going on with the interest rates. So there's also an anticipated increase in the interest revenue of about $1.3 million. So those and some additional federal grants that I believe were from FEMA give us to about $3 million increase in revenue from what we were budgeting. So when we go down to the expenditures, you'll see those are by department. I do want to focus on the law enforcement. Prosecuting attorney has about a 1.3 favorability. Sheriff has about a 2.2. So in law enforcement in totality, we have an $850,000 unfavorable budget to actual in the expenditures. Historically, what has happened in those line items, especially with the sheriff overtime, is it has been trued up at the end of the year. So we're looking at this deficit all year and not really, understanding how it affects. And at the end of the year, it was automatically gone. So what we've done in the next budget is we've anticipated fiscal added $1,750,000 each of the years up to $2 million for the sheriff budget to try and anticipate some of these costs to really true that up. And I think those are the things that you're gonna see going forward with our forecast and along with the budget that we're gonna talk about in a little while. I'm not gonna try and fix that this fiscal year, cause time is that commodity that we're all kind of running out of. So we're almost at the end of the fiscal year. We're gonna see where it's at, we're gonna true it up, but we've really made an attempt to make sure that we're truing that up going forward. And it's gonna require, some monitoring, and in the meantime, based on the conversations that we've had, I've gotten some really great documents from the sheriff's office in terms of the breakdown of the overtime, whether it's hospital watch or holiday pay or parental leave, so that we can, so that we can make some really solid decisions, intelligent decisions, transparent decisions about how the overtime looks and how it's affected by the other decisions that we make. When we increase a holiday, how does that increase our overtime? So instead of looking at these things holistically like we're doing on this page, my intent is to really figure out what some of those big areas are and make sure that we can be a little more proactive as opposed to reactive as we've been since I've been here that I've seen. The other things is, and I'm not sure, I didn't look into this, so I can't speak to it, but circuit court is over. They have a favorable $7 million favorability in their line item. There is part of that is childcare fund, so there's a lot of stuff in circuit court. As you guys know, it's a little complicated how that all fits together. So that is showing some favorability. The general government is showing about $2 million of favorability, which is between $750,000 and $1 million for clerk, treasurer, and the board of commissioners. Again, some of these other things could also be from the carry forwards. As you guys recall, we talked about in the budget hearings, when you see a budget and then you see a really high amended budget next to it, a lot of that is the carry forwards from the prior year. So some of these could be carry forward dollars that we're seeing, which is creating this favorability. What else do I have in here? Management and budget is over budget by over $1 million. That's because I'm the only one that works in management and budget, so everybody else is not. We're having. Yeah, so that's gonna go away. We've had some staffing changes over the past several months or year, so that's what you see those favorability amounts for. Those I anticipate going away. Economic development and health and human services are other areas where we have favorability in the budget. these are areas that we are really looking at and diving into to make sure that we understand what's in those budgets. One of the things I've asked my team to do, especially with Health and Human Services, is excuse me, in the sheriff's office, I wanna see how many dollars are we getting, how much of this budget is grant, how much of this budget is general fund, how much of this budget is, stuff that we put over there to help with ARPA. So we're really trying to do a drill down and see what the makeup is of these different departments. So that's kind of why the report looks the way that it's historically looked. But I think you will see, spoiler alert, some changes as we start moving towards the next fiscal year and these quarterly updates that you guys all get. And with that, I'll open it to questions. I know it was kind of like,
Okay.
I'm sure you don't have any.
None.
Start with Commissioner Rahman,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
followed by Commissioner Hoffman.
Mine is actually just a simple logistics question, and this might be for Mike Key's question. When typically, was this loaded prior to today?
Yes.
Oh, this part was. So the third quarter there was not a transmittal letter that was on my desk, and then as I started looking at it, I just really struggled with putting the typical transmittal letter together for you guys, because some of the things that I know is, as we talk about the budget amendments that we made, not all of them are in here. The budget amendments that are in the quarter are not in the quarter numbers. So it's hard for me to really give you guys a good transmittal letter and tell you what's going on when I feel like as soon as we put this together, it's almost out of date.
So I guess my question is, and this is maybe a broader question, because it even comes up, as we talk about budget, budget hearing stuff. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I know it obviously takes time. Is there a way to give us some time to receive it, digest it, process it? Because I feel like I come to the table, for some of these, and it's like, even today I was talking to Michael Andrews, like we're making changes at the 11th hour, and as a finance team, saying yes or no, and I haven't even had the time to think about it.
I understand that completely.
So at least for me, that presents a challenge. I don't know about my fellow commissioners. So I don't know if there's a way in the process moving forward to sort of separate them time-wise, so we have time to digest it.
There is, and this is all part of the things that we're looking at. Because the other thing that's on this agenda is the budget wrap-up. So my whole budget team, as you guys saw, we spent 2 weeks in here, meeting with everybody. So that's 2 weeks that they're not doing things. We also have this third quarter. We can't really look at the third quarter till we close the third quarter books. And then, okay, so are we working on budget stuff or are we working on quarterly stuff? So there is an opportunity, and one of the things that my team and I are working on is putting together a calendar for us that my team can see the BOC meetings, our actual stuff that we have coming up, and our budget stuff, and merge those 3 calendars together so that we can, as I said earlier, be more proactive instead of reactive. And I completely acknowledge that we've been reactive, especially since Kim left, trying to fill that role and understand what that role was and guide that staff while I'm still trying to, guide the audit staff and things like that. So that's why I think it's my excuse, why it was so short-sighted this time. We really are trying to be more proactive, make sure that you guys have the information, and also make sure that you don't have to study it, you can look at it and understand what's going on.
Yeah,
So that's the direction we're moving in, and I dare to say you will see, you saw it in the budget hearings, we're making changes. You saw the collaboration during those budget hearings, and you'll see when we get to our next item, some of the things that we've been working on. So this third quarter thing just sort of, was like, okay, I know I have to get to it, but we were concentrating more on trying to get some of the budget stuff taken care of.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So noted.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoffman, followed by Commissioner Cavell.
Thank you very much. I understand we're upside down in the sheriff department because of the overtime. Did you mention the prosecutor's office?
Well, so the prosecutor's office and the sheriff are grouped in the category of law enforcement. So the prosecutor's office has a budget favorability of 1.3. And then the sheriff's office has a deficit.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
So that's how it ends up being there. And a lot of this stuff comes from, if you recall, we budget at full employment. You know,
True.
so there was a prosecutor position that was for Oxford that didn't get filled. So that's the kind of favorability. That's what makes this so challenging for me, is when you're looking at this, you're looking at the entire department. But when you're looking at the budget book, you can see that this is the salaries and wages, this is the operating expense, these are the revenues, the grants. So I'm trying to get these more concise, so that when you look at this, it makes sense to you in terms of what you've been looking at for the budget stuff all along. But that's why you see most of these favorabilities, because we do budget for full employment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you. Hey Cheryl, I was wondering if you could help me understand the planned use of fund balance on both
Okay.
page 12 and 18.
So I don't have the pages, but what I can tell you.
Yeah.
So the planned use of fund balance is historically kind of what we need to balance the budget. But when we talk about carry forwards, the bulk of that is the carry forwards. So we plan to use that fund balance, bring it over, we put it in there to update people's budgets who say, hey, I'm not done with this project yet, I need you to put that in next fiscal year. So that's where that area comes from. There's also encumbrances in there, and so if you look across, and I think I have the most updated. I had 14.9, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah. Ultimately at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the difference between, in the forecast column, towards the bottom, you'll see 28 million. Double underlined.
About 14.9.
Page 12.
Okay.
So that is what we are saying as favorable. Because we have non-departmental favorability, we had 24 million in favorability. And then we're taking the 14 million off, and that leaves us $13 million of favorability. Because we planned on using 14 million, we have an excess of 24. And so that doesn't even make sense, Cheryl. And then, so we've got that additional planned use that we're not using.
So.
That was the worst way to explain that.
Yeah, I think, so, okay, so can I repeat back just to make sure I get it?
Sure.
Okay.
Hopefully it's clearer
All these
than what I
numbers all
said.
start to look the same, right? I can only imagine. Okay, so we adopted $575 million in government expenditures in 2024. But then our job as commissioners was to amend that budget in this committee that then ended up making $601 million
No,
in,
let me stop you right there, just real
Okay.
quick. So the adopted is what was adopted by the board.
yeah,
So that's everything that's in it. That was what was presented last year, your amendments, the board amendments, everything as it's adopted by the board towards the end of September last year, those are the adopted numbers.
yeah.
So then at we do the fourth quarter forecast, we bring you carry forwards. They're usually in $19 million, and there's some encumbrances, which are purchase orders that we've already set aside, so we roll that stuff forward. So it didn't get used in the previous budget, so we're saying, okay, we're gonna take those, instead of putting those dollars back into the general fund, we're just gonna roll them over because you've told me that you started this project in September and you're gonna be done by November, so we're just gonna add that to the budget. That now becomes your
601.
your budgeted, your amended budget, because it's separate from what was adopted. Adopted is always what gets adopted by the board at the end of September.
Okay, and the 601 is what then is amended through carry forwards.
Through carry forwards and also through amendments that come through this board that get, like when we spend money for stuff, we take it out of fund balance or we take it out of here or we move it around. That's what your amended column is. As we go through the year, we kind of tweak it.
So that's what I'm seeing is that it comes to the finance committee, okay, got it, so we're on the same page. And then what was forecast is 576.
Yes.
Because in part, some of the things we approved to get to 601 are carry forwards.
Yes.
And then that's why we get the 24.7 is because 601 minus 576 is the 24. And then you have then, is that right? 6, 4. So then that gives us a favorability of 24. And then where does if I could, that's where I have a question, is the 24 and the 28, there's a difference there. One line below, right, we have a favorability of 24, and what I'm not understanding is how we get to then 28 million.
And I have an arrow by it, but I will have to honestly get back with you and let you know.
Okay, cool, understood.
And this is one of those things that I'm talking about that at the bottom of the report is not clear.
Sure.
It doesn't really tie with what you have in your budget books. It doesn't really tie with the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I know that it makes sense and there's a reason, but I don't know what it is.
3 different spreadsheets, I get you. Okay, and then I appreciate that. The other thing I just wanted to lift up is just because we're here talking about it, the sheriff's office is budgeted this year, right? They spent $208 million.
That's the forecast,
That's the
yes.
forecast, as we,
The
okay, by the
anticipated
end of the year.
spend.
Yep. So $208 million. Bob lifted it up that they're $2 million over their budget. Just to give context, that's 208. And then for our Health and Human Services Department, they're expected to spend $54 million this year. Just because we were all talking about this yesterday in Public Health and Safety. And the Health Department, they get and tell me if I get this wrong, 2/3 of their money comes from a federal grant, so it's yep. So just $1 to Health Department can leverage $2 in federal support. And that's not the same to be said for the sheriff. And they're a magnitude and order larger, just to lay it out.
There is, that was what I was talking about. I don't know exactly what those numbers are.
Sure.
Commissioner, those are things that I do want to look at and I want my team to look at so that we can tell you those things. There are a lot of grants, as you know, in the sheriff's office as well.
Sure.
So that's why I want to see, and I think you guys want to know, what's the general fund impact of these individual departments? And, what kind of dollars are we going after? We have grants that are, annual grants that we get every year. There's conversations about training grants, there's conversations about, WIC grants in health and human services. So I want to be able to carve that out for you so that you guys can make a decision when those come before you of how it affects those line items and where it's going.
Yeah.
That would actually,
That would
super
be
helpful
nice,
to what Chair Markham said though, like being able to know that this, for example, right, grant from the state for whatever, will that, if it's $100,000, will we have to spend $50,000 for the next 3 years on something? Okay, yeah.
Because on the face, it's like, oh, cool, you're giving us $1 million.
Yeah.
And if it's gonna cost us $25,000 to get that million, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
If it's gonna cost us $1.2 million to get their million, well, then that's a decision that you all have to make, and we have to figure out, is that something that we're willing, the 50 cents on the dollar still might be a good deal, but you need to have the information to make those decisions.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay, anybody else? That's good. Commissioner Wiper.
And when you say true up the sheriff's budget or the overtime at the end of the year, I mean, it's not gonna jeopardize the budget, it's just you gotta pick the places, right?
Right, well, the actual dollars have been spent.
Right, you're just truing it up.
Those are gonna be spent. What truing it up means is I have to make sure that when the statements go to the state, the budgeted dollars are equal to what the expenditures are. Because we are supposed to be budgeting our dollars and then spending them, not spending them and then budgeting for them.
Okay, so true, that means it's really true it up.
Yes.
And then the planned use fund balance, I mean, we've always had that in
Yes.
budgets every year.
Yes.
And then sometimes it's always looked good. Hey, we didn't spend as much we didn't use as much of planned use.
Yes,
So sometimes it's forecasted that we're gonna use 39 million
right.
and then we've only used 19.
Right, and I think
that's a
the
good thing.
philosophy in that is changing. I think we're not trying to rely on that as much. We're trying to
or be more accurate.
proactive in saying, okay, this is what we're gonna spend, and then when, there are things that come along, it's like, okay, we need to do this, and we need to, that's why we have fund balance assignments set aside for some of the non-economic things, some strategic things do come out of the budget. And those are the things that, you know, when you say planned use of fund balance, there's 100 ways to say it. You could say equity, you could say planned use, you could say a bunch of things, and every CVT and government organization uses a different phrase for it. But here we call it planned use of fund balance, but we're trying to be really more mindful of how we're doing that.
Commissioner Rahman followed by Commissioner Cavell for a second time.
Actually, she already answered it, so I'm good,
Okay,
thank you.
Commissioner Cavell.
I had one more question, which is, when you talked about this, and this might be in your budget presentation, the sheriff getting their budget, as Phil said, trued up. Two things. One, does that then mean the sheriff might not come before us as often because they don't need to get our permission to change dollar amounts?
No,
or
I think
things?
there's, I don't think that they come to you for those changes as much. I think what they come to you for are the grants.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see a lot of those right now because they run with our fiscal year.
Yeah.
So right now, everybody's trying to get their 25 grant, you know, on the table, approved by the board and get it into the system. So I think that you will see some departments coming less often. My goal would be, here's how we're gonna operate this year. These are the dollars we need to operate this year. And then there might be a new program that comes up, there might be this really cool thing that happens, or something gets invented, and somebody wants to spend some dollars on that, then they're gonna come to you and say, hey, we've seen this is what we wanna do. Everything that they can plan for, we want them to plan for. We don't want them to just continue to roll their budget over as they've had last year and the year before and the year before, and then when something comes up that they knew was coming down the road, then they come to you. That's how we end up with this last minute stuff and stuff where you guys don't have the time to do your own research, talk to your own constituents about it. I don't have time to research it to see if we're doing it the best way that we possibly can. So those are the kind of things that I think you're gonna see less of, and the timing of those things hopefully will be a longer runway, as my buddy says, and you know, we'll be able to, you'll have a couple months to figure it out, to make a decision. You're not gonna have to come in and see something on your agenda and go, well, I haven't had a chance to read this, do I, you know, and then a meeting goes long and then you've got 5 minutes, you're gonna go take a break and take a walk, or are you gonna read the agenda item?
Right.
You know, we're trying to really just shore that stuff up.
Okay, and then the last thing is when Phil made
That's
me
what you
think
said
of-
last time.
Yeah, my bad. When I hasn't turned my mic off yet, you know, so. No, the sheriff being and again, as an example, because there's a couple other departments over
Yes.
budget. But the sheriff being 2 million over budget, that then means the options are use fund balance, which in a sense is our savings account, or take it from a different department that asked for this money but hasn't quite used their own money yet. So it's taking from another department or using our savings account if someone is over budget.
Or unfilled positions.
Or
Unfilled positions, right, so what'll
okay.
happen, because the bulk of this, so we put $8 million in the budget that came before you for unfilled positions, because we
Yeah.
budget for full employment.
Yeah.
And so what'll happen is the sheriff uses all of their dollars.
Okay.
Other departments don't use all their dollars, so
Okay.
those dollars will they'll kind of just get like moved around so that it may not come out of fund balance, because, you know, management and budget has $1 million that we haven't used, so those dollars will go there. If there's other things within the department, if there's other things within the department, you know, that's what you'll see here.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might be things that are not favorable, but they have so much favorability in staffing that shows that they're favorable by like $600,000. So those are the things that we true up, and you know, one of the other goals that I've talked about a couple of times coming before you guys is that, you know, I wanna make sure that you know what the vacancies are in the individual departments. So you saw that in the presentations that most of the departments gave you. This is what's budgeted, these are the vacancies.
Yeah.
And so we do have that money set aside so that we can do, but we anticipate that there's gonna be vacancies for that. So it'll still come from the general fund, but like I said, in this place, maybe it'll come from my department.
So then, just to that, I was hoping you'd say something like, there are consequences for being over budget, like we have to dip into the savings account, or we have to take from a different department that just hasn't spent all their money yet.
We're not there yet, but we're not far from there.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
It's unfilled positions for
Well,
certain.
Commissioner, I think what
Brian Leffler, everyone.
I think what also is the issue of unfilled position in any department is, even though working with our partners over in HR, where are these positions, are they being posted, so we know? Because if they are not going to, we need to see the runway. I'm gonna use that my term that I started when I came here. I just kind of want to see the trajectory of what's gonna happen, because if they're not gonna fill those positions, then why are we carrying them at full employment?
Okay.
The second thing is, let's going back to grant. You know, the concern I have is every department comes to you and talks about the grant, or they have exceptions and things like that. There's gotta be a much better master calendar from the perspective. It's like, the concern I have is that everybody's flush with money, even the state of Michigan. As soon as those dollars stop at the state, those grant dollars, and then I wanna make sure we tie those back to positions, because we can't keep carrying these positions if you accepted the grant with the understanding that they funded certain positions, everything has to be tied back. The last thing about grants is, what is the cycle for all of this? Because I know we talked to, Cheryl and I talked to Sarah Gold about that process is like, does it impact her calendar? I mean, I would love to get to 0 exceptions so that the grants that exactly where they are, because I'd love to know that if the grant dollars don't come in, is the bottom drawer your general fund dollars, which takes from somewhere else. So it's actually shifting this responsibility back onto somebody in those departments. So that to do it is, but the point that what I wanted just again to say is, we are here to be, they're our customer inside of fiscal, so we will be there to support them and making sure that what do they need if they can't do it. But again, it's like when we go to HR, I asked for lots of reports from HR to make sure I understood how all the things that they do and an impact on the budget. So as Cheryl said, we are really working on this very hard for FY 2025, so. But I do wanna say, so noted, appreciate you keep making those comments, because from your perspective, if we're not giving you the information, that could lead to frustration, the fear of lack of transparency, and that's not where we're at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, if everybody's had all their questions answered, let's go ahead and prompt a vote on the 10A fiscal year
Just admiring how you.
2024 third quarter financial forecast.
Says I already voted.
Did you vote that?
Hoffman,
Yes. Yes, I did.
Markham,
I'm trying to watch it.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Rahman,
Yes.
8 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. It's good.
Welcome back.
Next up, we have item 10B, which is the sponsorship of additional Trinity gun disposal, safe surrender and buyback events. I need a motion. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. All right, floor is yours. Commissioner Gershenson.
Appreciate that support. So as everyone knows, we've had several of the gun buybacks. There are 2 more scheduled in Oakland County. There's 2 that are not gonna be in Oakland County, so there's 4 more left, but though we are not contributing to the ones that are outside of Oakland County. The 15,000 is for both, so it breaks down to 7.5 each one. And they're very successful. We have a great partnership with the Episcopalian Church, and including the bishop of the church, who is a dynamic female who's come to some of the events. Just to show you, so there's now a saw that breaks the guns down right. They take them out of the car, they break them down right there. There's experts that are using the saw. And then the parts are taken over to another station where the parts are offered to the public to make a piece of art out of the pieces of the gun. So this is an example that Commissioner Markham did or
No, I just picked it up. Somebody there was making different pieces.
She did it, she's
No,
gonna
I
make his
didn't,
own.
but I thought it was really cute. I liked it.
Okay.
So these are actual gun parts, so.
Those are gun parts, yeah.
It's a great program and unfortunately, it's still costing us money. We're working on maybe in 2025 lowering the cost of these events. They had to buy saws, there were a lot of expenses that they've entailed, so that's why the request is in for the 15,000 for the last two.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Two more events.
The 15,000, I should say. Is all that money, since they already have the tools, is that money all gonna be used to buy guns?
Gift card.
Or is that
Oh, you mean
money?
gift cards?
Pardon?
Yeah, they give an incentive if you turn in the gun, if you.
Right, and they pay
Yeah.
you for the gun, but
Yeah.
that money's gonna be used solely for purchasing those guns, no other expense.
Back of the trunk guns.
Oh, there's a lot of other expenses,
I
was
know.
the budget included in this?
No, I don't believe
Presentation?
I don't
Okay,
believe in it.
I can give you, I can send everybody a copy of the budget, cause there's a lot of other expenses.
Well,
is
I guess
actually-
I'd like to know for ponying up 15 grand to buy guns, how many guns you're gonna, how much of the 15 grand is gonna be actually used to buy
Buy
guns?
guns,
10%, 20%?
You mean for a gift card?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, yeah, they're.
Yeah, well, that's what it would be for.
so it's gonna be $15,000 worth of gift cards.
Well, I don't think I've specified what I want them to spend money on. I saw a budget and there were lots of areas that they could use it, but if you're more comfortable with that going directly to gift cards, it can.
Something, I guess.
it can.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised we don't have more info, but yeah, I just assumed
I'm
know that those
surprised we
gift
don't have
cards.
the budget.
So I did look up, we do have the attachments, there is a budget, but it's articulated in text, not in like a, a breakdown.
And also what I wanna bring up, Board of Commissioners not only
we pass
sponsor of that event, so this is not just paid by Oakland County Board of Commissioners. They have different money coming from as well, so we are part of a bigger budget.
Oh, yeah, it's like a $40,000 to $50,000 budget
Correct,
per
yeah.
event.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's what I was, that
Right,
was
yeah,
my
we're
next
not,
question.
back in the day when we started, you're right, we were the sole source,
Right.
but we're not anymore. They are raising funds.
Commissioner Cavell, followed by Commissioner Rahman.
So just doing the math too, the money that would go to sponsor this means that on average, the gift cards, it costs roughly $107 per gun, right? Cause some gift cards, right, like a pistol might be $200, a rifle might be $100, so you do the averages of those. When we did the first gun buyback of this,
Do you know how many?
yeah, it was over 350 guns, including two guns that were used in crimes and 5 assault rifles. So there's
We
over
pay the
300.
most for the assault rifles, I
So
believe
there's
they're
like-
200, and a long gun is $50, a rifle is 50, and a handgun is 100.
And that was.
And there's a limit of 5 that you can turn in as many as you want, but you're only gonna get paid for 5.
Yep. Because
Cause people were coming
the
with
line around the block,
carloads.
yeah. And just to reiterate,
Wait,
because
the whole idea is to get guns off the street,
Yeah.
but now we're gonna limit people?
no, you can donate them, but you
Yeah.
only get paid for 5.
But they wanna
And
do
there
it
were
for the money.
Well, you know, Bob, so this is interesting,
we ran
'cause-
out of
Yeah.
money within like 20 minutes.
And I was gonna say, this
Oh,
is
wow.
interesting because this is a handout from the government to gun owners, so tell your people, bro, you know? You love this stuff.
Alright, so who else
So
had a
you're telling me I
question?
should vote against it?
No.
I mean, if that's in the interest of your district, but I don't think it is.
And then also when we run out of funding, the people were still willing to give guns for free. So it's
Yeah.
not that they were turned away or something. And then when, they were told that the funding expired, they still were willing to. It's like, no, we're just happy that we know where we are giving it, and they destroying on the side help as well. Because sometimes you donate something and you don't know really,
True.
right? And also.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly what happened.
Exactly, and this was because of this program, the state police now changed the vendor for the gun destructor, to say nicely, because they did not resell the guns, but they resell parts, yeah, so we are making changes also not only in Oakland County, but the whole state of Michigan.
Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, it's just for Barbara. I was gonna quickly ask, you know, with the sponsors, I'm just curious the scope of sponsors and do we know who else is sort of on board with us
but
or?
there is, everything is updated on our website, sorry, I wasn't, we have a dedicated website for this, but I can definitely, sorry, I don't wanna make, blank statements without it, so I would.
There are a lot of individuals and the family of the young woman Alex that was killed at Michigan State from Clausen, they actually are working
Sponsoring
SAW.
as well. Oh, they're working at SAW.
And they've contributed, I think they were like $15,000.
But I will follow up with you, Commissioner, and send you everything.
Yeah, just curious. Perfect.
Thank you.
Where is the breakdown here, or it wasn't?
Yeah, it's in text. Yeah, it's in text in one of the attachments, so I'll update that so that way there's an actual chart
Okay.
for full board.
Okay, and then I have the breakdown of all the costs, so we should post that too.
Coordinate. Okay, good. Yeah, that, just show the, pass that around or show people what it is. I mean, I thought that was really clever.
Did you frame it? Is that your frame that you put it in?
No,
or
actually, they had frames
And
there, I
those
just
frames?
picked it up and took it, you know, so yeah. Yeah, I wanna permanently affix it around here somewhere because it's something cool that we as a group are doing and
Yeah.
so, anyway, okay, if there's no other comments on this one, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
I got red and blue in the heading. I wanna know how the red and blue got in the heading.
Long?
Put it in, yeah.
I got it, yes. Markham.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I just changed the color.
Where, let me see.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got it.
So now we're gonna go into item number 11. The fiscal year 2025-2027 budget wrap-up. We've all been anticipating this day, so let's just move right into item 11A, which is the fiscal year 2025-2027 Oakland County recommended budget.
So we should get a motion to recommend that to the board first.
Somebody make a motion.
Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Cavell. Okay.
And then now we can go into item B, which is an amendment to item A, and I think Cheryl and Brian will be able to discuss each section.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the motion was on all of these items, A, B, C, D, and E?
No, actually, so the motion is to recommend 11A. And now we would want to entertain a motion to amend 11A.
To add section A, B, C.
Correct, yep. And when we do have that motion, after we have that motion to amend, we'll turn it over to Brian and Cheryl to discuss those amendments.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to amend A, B, and C.
Okay. Supported by Commissioner Cavell. All right.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for your time and attention and your energy and your efforts for the 2+ weeks that we are sitting together with HR and any other partner to work with each of the individual elected officials or the departments to present, I think, a consistent set of budget documents that keep it as tie bar. But as Cheryl said, you know, I think going on for next year, I think we're gonna have to have a little bit more robust so you understand even what's happening on the revenue side of those expenditures so that people see. And again, that was just the general fund side. As you know, we delivered the recommended budget on July 1st, but since the hearings, there has been additional conversations that we've actually had inside on the executive side with some of the departments. So with that, some of these changes that are here, or at least have been discussed with some of the members of the committee, and Cheryl and I, what we're trying to do here is definitely deliver a balanced budget for your review and consideration. But then after that, if you have any additional questions, so like, for example, I know the prosecutor's office asked for additional dollars. The sheriff's office, we hopefully address some other issues. The circuit court had, every presentation had some additional things that we're talking about. And we are still currently trying to tie making sure the county's dollars are being spent efficiently and effectively, that there's no duplication and things like that. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Cheryl because she has been the gatekeeper, but I think we have been meeting probably daily, or even on the weekend sometimes, like, what do you think?
Yes.
So I'll turn it over to Cheryl with the items that you have in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanna make sure we can follow you online.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Commissioner Rahman today because I printed stuff out before I came here today and it's all completely different. So
Yeah.
if I'm not in line with what you guys have, please help me out.
And I'm gonna hand one to Commissioner Lund.
So we have a list of the item A are the amendments made pursuant to the adoption of the budget, but they have been made by separate resolutions. So these are items that let me pause right there. Ebru is in the room as well, and so she is my monitor. So as soon as I say something wrong, she's either gonna stand up or raise her arm or give me a really weird look. So that we can make sure that we're giving you the correct information. Okay, items on A, because we've had this conversation a couple times. The items in A are items that you have previously seen, they've come to the board, you've already approved them. But they just kind of, because of the timing of how we pull the budget together and then the things that we don't stop until we get a new budget. So you're continuing to do business and you're making amendments to the budget going forward, 3-year rolling budget. That's what the items in A are. You've already seen them, you've already voted on them, they've already been approved. They will just be incorporated into the document. Okay. Items that are in section B, those are human resource related items. So what you're gonna see there is we've done some reclassification. Now these you have not seen yet, but you will see these when the book gets put together for the BOC for the amended, these are the things that you will see. Before it goes to the board for approval, these are the things that you will see. Not getting a dirty look yet.
So Cheryl, just when we get that book and that these are things that the whole board hasn't seen and their changes, correct? Is there some way we could?
Well, that's what the document that's attached, it's called the Finance Committee Budget Wrap-Up List of Amendments.
Okay.
And budget corrections, so this is it. So the other thing that, just to kind of beat a dead horse, I guess, is, we print that big book, which admittedly was smaller this year, but we print that big book and then we have another opportunity where we have amendments that are the finance committee things. We don't reprint the book again, we print a supplementary piece of paper, report that goes with it. And then once the board,
No, I'm
okay, once the board adopts the final book, then we print another final book.
Okay.
So we're trying to really just look at that whole process and make sure that we're being efficient, transparent, and so that you can see how it started here and how it's going and how it ended up here. So those are things that we are working through, but this is how the process, my understanding is how it's worked before. There's always been this little additional book, and so, by the end of the process, you guys are carrying around like a big book, a categorical, a finance committee amendment, and then if you're.
So Commissioner Richardson, I wanna say, so like under Bravo B, number 9, prosecuting attorney.
Right.
The victim advocate. The recommended budget that came over from county executive had that position, and we appropriated dollars, we would appropriate dollars from the general fund for that position. However, in our communications with the prosecuting attorney, they said this position would be grant funded. So there's no reason to put, they get the position, but if it's grant funded, there's no need to use general fund dollars.
Right.
The same thing here in item number 10, the peer-to-peer issue, yesterday was a presentation that got 2 peer-to-peer positions. So it's the same concept under law enforcement, is that those are some of the dollars that you know, if you're gonna get the grant dollars, to me, why have another position when
Exactly.
what they had asked for? So
Totally.
they're getting the peer-to-peer, but they're getting it funded through a grant,
Got it.
okay? So this is kind of like on that high level to address those issues, and then you can see, for example, when we had met with, say, Circuit Court, you know, based on childcare, there was on the child care fund, there's reclassification of things that we had to address. District Court, in this case, the deletion of a part-time, non-eligible, I mean, we just had to like clean up what we had based on our conversations post. Two things, one, the budget that was delivered on July 1 and their presentation to the Finance Committee, which allowed us to address these.
Got it, thank you.
Brian, can I just ask you a quick question on that? So with the grants being what they are, I appreciate the explanation. Do we know if those are one-year grants or indefinite grants? So like peer-to-peer, just as an example.
It would be like, right now, that's a 1-year grant.
Okay, so we'd have to reinvestigate next year.
Yes.
And then maybe put it back in as a separate line item from general fund.
Right.
If it disappears.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if there's a trend where like some of these grants are like, you see them every year, it's the same amount, well, if it's there, then okay, you have that position. But if not, then there's gonna be a concern is if the grant stops, then there's gonna have to be a decision by the Finance Committee and the board to use other resources or other general fund dollars for that position, but they're gonna have to come and talk to somebody. We're not just gonna make that, okay?
It's a permanent thing.
Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you. So then just to, if I'm picking up the tone you're giving us too, is what Ajay said about taking from the general fund if it's a 1-year grant that isn't renewed. Another way to also do that is investigate what is the $8 million unfilled positions thing. So maybe there's a moving around of positions before going to general fund. Sure. Because there's lots of unfilled positions. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I understood.
I think even to the point where by having those unfilled positions, you know that if someone's coming like, I wanna add new positions.
Yeah.
You know, we will certainly, as you know, then civic clerk, there's a approval process. There's gonna be a note saying, well, they do have unfilled positions. That's gonna be with the recommendation from our side.
Understood.
But it's gonna have to be working again. Is the positions that's been unfilled, is it gonna meet the need of the new position? So if there's gonna be a variance in terms of funding for that, then we're gonna have to work with human resources to make sure. So for example, if the unfilled position is worth, say, $50,000 and we need 62, you need to know that delta.
Yeah. And that's a lot different than drawing 62K from fund balance.
Correct.
Which is what we've been doing. Okay, understood.
That's our approach. And then, I'm sorry, like, I just wanna make sure, it's not just, again, I don't just pick on the sheriff, I mean, that's for every department,
Yeah,
so I mean,
yeah.
it's uniform, so.
And I think this is a good time to point out that, you know, you guys were all here. We all, I think, had a very successful budget hearing. You know, I think when we sat down with the departments initially, Brian, I think had been here for 4 or 5 weeks. So we sat down with all the departments and kind of gave them a chance. You know, they didn't know what to expect from us, we didn't know what to expect from them. So we had a couple follow-up meetings with the departments, just trying to keep the communication going. And then as we start to understand what their needs are and balance that with the dollars that are available, so that we can present to the board something that makes sense, that process was a lot more interactive this year between the departments. It wasn't just the department saying, well, here's what I want, and us saying yes or no. It was really helping us understand where their needs were, and that's what some of these additional meetings were. And also, I think a benefit of us sitting through all of the meetings with you all to really understand what the department's needs were and what they were seeing and out in, you know, what they're doing every day, because it's completely different from the finance department. So there are gonna be the human resource related changes that we made. You're gonna see those in section B of this report, and the bulk of those are made because of those conversations that we've had or that we had during these meetings with you all and with the departments. And then section C is Finance Committee recommended changes. Again, these have not been added to the budget yet, but there are things that we did in here. There are some things that are corrections. So we know we talked about the cafeteria and putting some funds in for the cafeteria, and then we missed it. So those are the kind of things that you're gonna see here in the corrections under the items listed as C.
So for example, just gonna go with the sheriff, I just wanna say C2. One of the things that we had learned is that the phone rate that can be charged was reduced by the Federal Communications Commission. So they can charge 16 cents a minute, which $75% of that comes back to the county. Effective January 1 of 2025, that rate, the max rate is, given the size of the jail that the county has, it goes to 6 cents a minute. For budgeting purposes, that was a $350,000 reduction in FY 2025. So the first quarter, we get the full 16 cents. After that, it's down to 6 cents. So what then we did for FY 25, we made the correction, but then the following year, since it's now a full year, it's a $450,000 correction to reduction in revenue that we've actually have added or baked in, which was not part of, any of the communication. So that's what some of those things are for this year. But I do want to say one thing, again, I really appreciate Commissioner Markham when you asked any of the departments and say, what do you foresee beyond 2025? That helps us immensely that we're gonna, what do they see or what's their trend? Because that's where I'm looking at. I'm looking 3 to 5 years from now. So when you are looking at any of the budgets, please think that way. Because I'm already asking that question. I appreciate the support that you had actually asked those types of questions. Because I don't like surprises. I can manage chaos, but I can't do it every day, so.
Commissioner Wong, you had a question.
So, yes, thank you. So every year we wait until the budget day on the board meeting to add the tri-party. I hope we're adding it, tri-party funding of 2 million, the local road improvement 2 million. Is that under C?
That's not on here yet.
Right. I just don't understand. I know it's like a bartering, in lack of a better word, bartering chip to vote on the budget, but I would like to.
It used to be, it isn't anymore.
I'd like it to be on here now. I feel like I know how I'm voting on the budget. It's not gonna I don't understand why we can't have it on finance C.
Eber, why don't you join us, Sophie?
Yeah. It's probably I ask this every year,
Well, and I will tell you, Commissioner Long, that this is one of those things that I've been in communication with Michael Andrews about how we're gonna do this going forward, cause it does seem silly to me that we know this gets added, but we wait.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's my question. We do acknowledge it.
Right.
So
Eber has his story.
Yeah, historically, it's always been added at the board meeting. And so then we would then amend the General Appropriations Act to then include that language to say that we're gonna appropriate tri-party dollars, because now it's gonna come, in the past, it was coming from assigned fund balance. So then we were gonna appropriate monies from assigned fund balance into the general fund budget, mainly in non-departmental, for the tri-party dollars.
Okay.
So that's why we've always done it that way, but doesn't mean that we have to continue
I know,
that
it's
way.
been like, I don't know if we did it before.
It started in 16, so I did.
Yeah, it
do some
wasn't like the
research.
whole time I was here it started. I would like to just see it here. It's always something we do. Maybe it gives it some more recognition that day for our community. I don't know, but I think they're both great programs. So that would be a deal breaker for me and maybe some other commissioner if it wasn't included, the tri-party and the local road. But
There's actually 3 programs for $6 million now instead of
what's the
2
other
for
program?
Subdivisions.
The subdivision?
Karen's Township Roads.
Oh, is it 1 million or 2 million?
2 million for township roads.
But that was the last thing.
Okay, but that goes every year too?
3 years.
Those were a pilot.
ARPA.
Yes,
Right,
that was
Forgot
introduced
about
as a
that one.
pilot, not last year, but the year before.
Which, that's a good program, I guess, but I'm glad it's only 3 years.
When we're flush
on
with
that.
cash.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Is there-
I guess my question, let me finish, just to finish, could we add it now or are we waiting? I just don't know why we wait. It just make it more sense that we all would have these amendment sheets and they're on there, those 3 programs, and we move forward on that budget day and we all know, yep, everything's in there, we want it.
I
guess.
don't know if, because there's a difference between the county exec's budget and then the board of commissioners budget. I don't know if that is the delineation.
Okay.
We are just still in those conversations, so that could be a part
So
of it.
maybe it could be fixed next year. If
Yeah,
it
I
can't,
would, I
mean-
guess I would defer to board leadership because I know they have an opinion. They're not here today. Dave
Right.
especially is not here today. Marcia's here, but
Well, there was a reason, but I
Right.
don't think the reason is valid anymore.
Yeah, I
It was
don't
when we were
know.
in the minority and we were fighting for those to
I know, it was a
be
bartering chip, that's what I'm saying, is it a bartering chip anymore?
anymore.
That's what I'm saying, I think that's what it was too, that's why I'm asking and bringing it up. Because we go through all those budget hearings and then we just have to add that at the last minute, it's just kind of senseless to me. If we're gonna do the programs, put them in here, then you could go, if you go to your communities and say, hey, we're working on the budget, these are included, cause people are asking me, I'm like, well, I think we have to barter at the last minute again. I mean, that's the truth, that's how I feel, so I say that at my township meetings. But it would be really nice just to already have it when we're working on the budget, in the budget, if we're gonna do it anyway, to me.
Yeah, I think,
It's just more honest approach to me, instead of, because I feel like I have to say to my communities, it's a bartering
I
chip.
guess if
You know?
my only comment is that based on the purpose of it, for purposes of dollars going to a local unit of government, if it's coming from here, your fiscal year is different than the other local units of
Right.
government, CVTs. But how they do their bidding for roads and or whatever happens or whatever it's for, just let's be conscious of that, if you're gonna back it up. Or defer it, I just would say, let's make sure when it's gonna be effectively used on a timely basis for those locals. I mean, otherwise you can give it in your fiscal year, but maybe it's not gonna be another year and a half, so
Right.
those.
Yeah,
That's how it usually
Yeah,
works.
so
I know
that's-
that does
That's how-
happen
yeah,
for
that
bigger
happens.
projects.
Yeah, they
They
Whatever.
will
build up the
pile it up
money.
for 2
Right.
or
Yeah,
3
so-
years.
They do.
Again, it's just knowing the cycle for me is I'm a little bit higher on that, but
Well, Marcia, maybe bring that up to Chairman Woodward, cause that's just something that I think would clean up our process and that on the day of voting for the budget, so,
Sure.
thank you.
Commissioner
Mike, do you have a comment on it? Probably
And then
Mike does,
Commissioner Cavell.
So I guess my question, if they're done with the presentation, I actually have a list of questions, but I can wait till the
What?
presentation's done, so I don't know.
Oh, you're down.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So the first question I have, with the things we're looking at on these first few pages, I know they're sort of generic, right? So I'm looking like at B5, for instance, County Executive Office of Sustainability Program Correction. Are we going to be privy to, greater details on these things, and if so, where
Subdivision one.
do we see them, where do we learn about them?
I believe those are in,
You would see those in your attachments.
yeah, those are in these attachments. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say your B5 then, and your attachments, then you would see the related
On page B5.
on page B5. Where
Like
those,
program correction?
yeah, and what it is just a net neutral change because the position was budgeted using the wrong program number. And then that's, and we're just correcting it.
Okay, sorry.
You know, reason it was for bars, you think.
Oh, got it, okay.
Thank you, better term, you know.
Perfect, so I didn't realize that they were listed here by each individual one, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it's no impact to the budget.
got it.
yeah, I think even from my perspective, if something's a PDF, if you click on it, it'd be nice to jump to that link so that gives you what you need.
Got it, okay, I actually didn't even realize that these were arranged by alphanumeric. So that is super helpful, so we can read about
Was
that.
there anything else that you, on the high level or any of those?
Well, I guess just on a high level, so we are voting on all of this today, correct?
Mhm.
And this is,
None of it.
We were having a side conversation.
so I guess my question is, knowing that we just received this, and I'm sure I trust both of you empirically, but being that we didn't have a chance to read this yet, are we voting on this now, on this whole packet?
You're voting to recommend it to the full board, and at full board, you're gonna have the opportunity to vote to adopt.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, I guess a couple of questions that I just had jotted down, and these are sort of all over the place. First one is special projects. I know there's $160,000 that we've kicked over to Sean and his team, is my understanding, to sponsor these 4 projects. correct me if I'm wrong, but again, I believe that 160 is now just moving from our pocket to their pocket to spec. So it's still not coming from their pocket, is that correct?
My understanding is that's gonna be, look at everybody's helping me, I love this. That is gonna be a separate resolution, it's not included in this packet.
Okay.
Oh, which one? I did.
So it will,
Oh, special projects, okay.
The resolution will come to you separately.
Okay.
It's not part of all of this.
Oh, so it's gonna be.
Because there's this
Should
question.
be the board day then.
sorry?
So currently, the 160,000 is still in the board's budget for 2024.
Right.
As either in special project or sponsorship, right? And I mean, I would have to go back and look and see
Right.
exactly what
It's
numbers
half and
are
half.
where, right,
It's
yeah.
half and half.
There are discussions as to how to use that funding, whether or not to pull it into fiscal year 25 and then use that as a means to continue county event sponsorships, and maybe even in general as well. I know there has been some discussions as identified as certain ones that would be able to use it for the next year. For the ongoing piece, I think it's still a discussion that would need to be had between the executive and the board leadership and stuff like that as far as what are we funding and everything like that. So, but to answer your question, right now, currently, it sits in the fiscal year 24 board budget under the special projects.
Correct, and I'm with you, and I think we're on the same page, but I guess my question is, why is it still sitting there? After all of these months of, hey, look, we need to kick this over.
Well, I mean, on a process wise, you wouldn't take care of that until either, if you wanted to pull it into fiscal year 25, there's a process for that. And that's the carry forward process. We wouldn't just, well, unless there was a resolution that amended it over to economic development for fiscal year 24. But I'm sure the rest of the commissioners would probably want to keep the budget that they have for special projects within their department, just in case they wanted to use that, to just take a chunk out and then use that there, yeah. So we've already funded through our special projects.
Right. For 24.
For 24,
correct.
for Winter Blast,
Correct.
Arts, Beats and Eats and those
So for
things.
25, those 4 events.
This is the time to start those, to basically discuss how are we going to fund, how is the county gonna fund those events?
Okay.
Who's it gonna be through?
Right.
Where's the funding source for that? Those are all gonna be discussions that are had.
So I guess to that point,
Yeah.
if we're recommending this to move forward and voting on it next week, is that something that happens between now and Thursday? Or,
Well, for the fiscal year 25 budget through 27,
right.
as far as I know, there's no funding within the economic development department budget for any kind of county event sponsorships.
Okay, so I'm with you.
I don't wanna say like it's these specific ones because really, we don't know if it's those specific ones or not.
Correct.
So
And I'm
for
with
25 and what you're adopting next week.
Right. So I still think we're on the
160 is
same.
not there.
Right, and I still think we're on the same page. But my question comes back because I know that I personally have elevated this for months. I mean, maybe even since I've been here. So I guess why isn't it?
I think the answer to that is the leadership of the VOC and the county exec are still discussing it.
Right, it hasn't really been agreed to yet.
Yes.
The money's there this year, next year, the year after, and the year after in the budget, it's just under our budget. Whether it gets pulled out of our budget and into the economic development budget is the piece that doesn't have a resolution.
Right.
But the money's all still there, we're gonna keep doing all those events.
I would add on to that there's also probably still a strategic discussion that's being made as well. For those county event sponsorships. So it's not just, without just saying, hey, we're going to do these 4 events, it's, okay, wait, where is the strategic viewpoint of how do we fit within the KPIs of the economic development department so that we can get the most bang for our buck, so to say, return for the funding that we would put over there for those specific events.
But it doesn't have to happen today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I fully understand. We can have a conversation offline. I don't know.
They're negotiating.
It's the bartering that I
Yeah,
call it.
they're negotiating the budget.
Yeah, probably.
I understand the 160,000's in our pocket right now, but at the end of the day, if we just shift it from our pocket to someone else's pocket and they pay for it. Cause that 160,000 in my view would stay in our pocket and we could use it for other things like gun buyback. If Marcia next month comes back and says, hey, instead of doing 2 gun buybacks, I wanna do 5. And as a board, if we support Marcia in this project, now instead of having to pay for Winter Blast, we could use that same money for Marcia's gun buyback, or whatever it is. I'm not picking at Marcia.
That's right.
But that's how I envisioned it, right? So
you're starting
if the 160,000 stays with us, or it gets transferred out, we don't have that 160,000 to do other things with, you know what I'm
But what
saying?
you're starting is a political conversation, right? You see what I'm saying? Cause that you're just asking about values and who wants to what more than another. That's not what your budget is your value statement, but that's not what happens today, right? Like that's the process of what Dave's doing in negotiating with the other Dave is that political conversation. Not are we gonna move this position over, are we gonna give this person the COLA, are we gonna do that? This is like the cleanup, and like they were saying, we got until Thursday for that negotiation, that politics conversation to keep happening. So you're right, totally, but that's what a chair does at this juncture.
I would also state one thing is thinking in that aspect though, if you're identifying a carry forward to move it into the fiscal year 25 with GFOA and accounting practices and stuff like that, you typically have programs that you've already either entered into a contract with or identified as that you would be expending these monies within the first 6 months or so.
Right.
So there are some limitations there. If you're just saying, well, we have $160,000 within our budget for this year, and we could use it next year by just completing this process, but not have, I know you mentioned gun buybacks and stuff like that. There might not be a gun buyback event in the middle of winter or something like that.
Two different things.
Yeah,
I feel
well,
like
and
you're
the thing
talking
is
about the carry forward, and I feel like Commissioner Rahman is talking about
Putting it in the econ.
putting it in the.
Putting in the econ budget, but
Yeah.
what, my point that I just wanna make sure that it's clear is that just to carry forward funds to then put it into another department without having a set purpose or strategy for those funds, that is the discussion that's being had right now, so that we can have that.
Understood,
And
but I think our BOC bucket has always been just that, right? It hasn't been earmarked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of been this X dollar amount that as a group, we determine our priorities, our values, and hey, look, this is what's important to us. And as the BOC, we will sponsor different events or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's fine. Then we talk about prosecutor.
Well, before we move on from that, in the time that I've been here, I'm in my 6th year, the special projects have become a little more important to the commissioners individually. I think every one of us has had a special project for our district, which I love. It identifies us, Republican, Democrat, I don't care. It identifies us as the commissioners that are doing the work for the community. And many of these are $5,000 or $10,000, little pokes to set up lights or whatever. And we are not running out of money to do those kinds of things. I think what has happened over time is at least 4 of these events have percolated into bigger money events. And that's not, and they are more economic development, really representing the county overall. Right? Winter Blast is like 5 communities, Arts Beats and Eats is everybody. And so I think as those figures have gotten bigger of the kind of money it takes to do those sponsorships, it does make more sense to not have it come out of the BOC every year but more programmed into our economic development world. And those are the discussions that are taking place. I'm not worried because we have not come close to running out of funding for what I call special projects, which are the individual projects within our districts. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so that's my take on all of it. I think it is in the hands of the leadership right now, the two Daves, you know, so.
But I do wanna reiterate, Commissioner Markham, the way you have the dollars that are in your budget, it's there for the next 3 years already. It's already built in, we're not gonna move it where you wanna, how you wanna have it administered or appropriate it. It will be, but the best part from my perspective, it's already in the budget.
Right, exactly. Right. And if we give it to a different department, it's from money that exists in the budget already.
Correct.
All right, Commissioner Round, keep going.
So my next one, and this may open up a whole nother can of worms, but UAW, right? Obviously, we know that they came and presented last week. Just so I understand, I know we already have budgeted a certain amount for staff, personnel, all of their salaries. If the Daves work out something between where they are now and where they're going, whether it's giving them exactly what they want or somewhere in between, the delta between that and where we are now, is that incorporated somewhere? Where do I see that?
So we budgeted 2.4 for 25, 26, and 27 as across the board increases for the entire county workforce. If there are additional dollars awarded to particular unions, then we have to find those dollars.
Okay.
Paying government bureaucrats exploded salaries.
And so like
one conversation.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if that dollar amount comes in higher than 2.4, presumably, again, we don't know, we you know, that's to be determined. Does that come from general fund or does that come, I mean, this goes back to what Charlie and I were kicking around. Like, where do we go for all these other things? I mean, just help me understand.
It kind of depends on where the employees are staffed. So if, and I don't know who's union and who's not, but if water resources employees have a union representative and their union negotiates a higher rate than 2.4, then that would have to come out of the water resource bucket, which is enterprise fund, which is derived by rates and things like that, so the rates would go up. If it's parks, parks employees are a special revenue because they have a tax and they have service fees, so they would have to either raise their charges for services or raise their taxes. The general fund employees, it would have to come out of the general fund, and the only way that we have money is grants, special revenue, or
Disability city.
the state aid from the state, obviously, and taxes. So we'd have to figure out a way to either raise taxes or take it out of fund balance, or or we'd have to really get creative with financing things.
Or I think the last thing to keep in mind, it's not just wages, they raised their issue about their concern about healthcare costs, I mean, there's everything, it's a bigger package, so once we're advised of what the package is or the thing is, then we'll just have to figure out where it comes from.
What is our time frame on that? Or is there a time frame? Is that just sort of whenever it happens and then
I'm gonna just say, right now, it's not resolved. I know their existing contract ends September 25th, I think.
Oh, right after vote the budget.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's before your fiscal year end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still working.
And there are several unions that end at different times as well. So this is just the
Okay, so
one.
this is just the
particular-
one?
Yes. Representing 900
Which is,
employees.
yes, which
It's the biggest
That's the
one.
biggest one,
It's the
they
biggest
said,
one, right?
which also the two, if you remember, the front of the court is now added to that.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
about, I'd say about another 100, but so if you had.
It's about 900 out of our employees.
About 900,
I think it's 8. I think I
Oh,
said
sorry,
9, but I think
it
it's
was
8.
708 plus
Yes.
another 100, so it's
Oh,
800.
okay, I thought it was 9, but it's still the big,
800,
large
800.
amount of our employees.
Correct.
Switching to the next topic.
20%.
I don't know if this is coming up here or somewhere else. Sheriff's contract renewal, is that part of this discussion? Is that somewhere else? Cause I can table it if not, but I'm on the hook right now to my CBT. Who's expecting an answer by this afternoon of what we're doing here.
Can we put a pin in that so we can talk about that a little bit this afternoon?
Okay, perfect, sounds good. Just because it's becoming more and more of a hot button in my CBT.
It's a hot button for us too, in terms of making sure that the contracts really recoup all the cost that we are looking for.
Okay.
The other thing though too, in my mind, is the same thing is he's contracted with CBTs, once again, that have different fiscal years than we have.
Okay.
And
So, you
3%
know, one of the concerns I had, because I'm very sympathetic to a local unit of government that has a July 1 to June 30th, and their budget process is different versus the overlay, which is, I think was one of the questions I thought, like when I first came here with the dispatch. I heard what Commerce said is that they had make a budget amendment in their last quarter of their fiscal year, which was probably after they had already amended their budget for that fiscal year.
Right.
And that's a challenge. So I'm very sympathetic to that. I clearly hear that, so.
And it didn't really make sense to me because at yesterday's city council meeting, they said specifically that they have to get this approved by the end of this month. So knowing what you just said, it's not computing in my head, but we can discuss that offline to figure out where we're going. If it is going to take some time, I would just ask that whoever the powers that be not tell people that it's with the BOC. Because I've had multiple suggestions that this is on the BOC's table and that we are delaying the process and not getting them answers.
No, I mean, the way the process is, at least was, is that BOC did set a policy about approving the contract rates.
Correct.
So then what that meant is having, say, the sheriff or even under equalization, they're gonna be coming with new contracts, making sure that all the information is provided, say, to management budget, which we have been asking for, which has been great. Gay has been, and her team's been great working with. Even during this budget process, coming to find out what else is that, you know, their needs are, is this gonna be really reflective of the rates that are gonna be charged for services, either human, non-human, equipment, training, all this. So my biggest concern is that you really don't get the chance to look back once you enter into this contract for the next 2 or 3 years.
Sure.
The delta there is you eat it. The board eats it, everybody eats it. So the question is, how do we look at these contracts on a good basis? One of the things that we just received the Maximus study, for indirect costs for using FY 2023 rates. That came in at 8.5% for just the sheriff. So for indirect costs.
Yeah.
So that's again too, is that's, I think we just received that less than a month ago. So that's a component of it, so.
And all of that's fine.
But I think the thing is, I get what you're saying, Commissioner, it's really, you're waiting for us to present this to you or for us to get back to the sheriff's office or any of them that have a contract. That was one of the questions I had.
They expire, right? I think
Oh,
that's
they're
the issue
expires.
is because they're expiring.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and I guess whoever had communicated with them has said, hey, look, the BOC has it, we're just waiting on them to vote for it.
That's not true.
But I'm just telling you, that's
haven't
what's been-
received it from, we haven't,
I'm sorry, but they.
on our side, we haven't signed off on anything yet.
Correct, and I get that, I'm not even throwing you under the bus, I'm
So
just
now
saying
he's
this is
gonna
what's being
process
communicated. So it looks bad on our part, so as a commissioner, my CBT's thinking, well, why isn't my commissioner doing anything and why is he just sitting on it?
Sure.
So whoever that needs to be
You wanted to help
communicated to,
increase
please,
government
please let
spending.
them know.
As we were just saying, right?
I got it. I hear you loud and clear.
Thinks it's not enough.
I don't wanna monopolize the whole
Sometimes kids
conversation,
do.
I've got a whole list of things. I guess I'll keep it to just one here, so with the budget hearings that we had, if there's an area of a deficit, for instance, and I think of like I was speaking with someone, like Barb Hankey came up, you know, and I know with dog licenses, just as an example. I know there was clearly a deficit there, we've increased the workers to, you know, animal control. I think we've given them 20-ish new people or.
Nine.
Okay, sorry, I thought it seemed like more. But regardless, I know that was an expenditure that we took on last year.
Yeah.
And we said that they would have some skin in the game and some ownership to do something to try to get that cost back, right? Whether it was increasing licenses or otherwise. So smaller things like that, they're not quite as glamorous as the prosecutor or sheriff or things like that. But at what point in this process do we go back and revisit some of those things before this is all complete, signed, sealed, and delivered?
I think one of my concerns too is if you look at the recommended budget, I mean, you have a section called rates and fees or something, it's not all comprehensive. I mean, so one of the things is that sometimes when you go to a local unit of government, one of the attachments when they have their budget, water rates, everything is in one section. It's not here, as we found out. It's like, for example, like even, you know, during the budget process, we learned that the medical examiner was charging for an autopsy in Lapeer County $1,000 less than somebody that was here in Oakland County.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
No.
It's the same
No.
saw.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, those are the things that we learned during this process that we're gonna have to kind of quote true up. When I say true up, is it for you to see, okay, what did we charge in this year, that year? Cause this is really gonna reduce quite honestly, entities coming to you one-on-one for their changes in rates to comply with your policy. That was established earlier from the dispatch contract. So I would love to have it all in the budget so that once you see it, those are the dollars or rates that we have incorporated into that. But then also too, is that sustainable in the sense, are they really budgeting the number of licenses? I mean, those are the things you start focusing on.
So you're seeing that as an ongoing process
Correct.
as we learn things.
Yeah. I was quite surprised that,
We talked about that a little bit though, didn't we, during the medical examiner?
Like for
About what the, cause their rates are in the budget book and that is something that you all got during that. So I don't know if it should have been a stronger conversation at that point or if when they said we just realized that's not feasible because we can't enforce it. I don't know if that was the end of the conversation. But in my mind, then that conversation would have been at that point in time when you did bring it up and say, hey, what about the rates?
Well, I come back to animal because that's the one that I personally asked about during
Right.
budget hearing. I
Right.
remember I was virtual and I specifically asked about it. We said, we'll talk about it later. I just don't know when is the later and is that on us to revisit?
I think it's on us to give you a consistent template or platform that you can look at anyone's rates and how those rates are incorporated into the budget. Because that's the same question I had when the pre-meeting was with us back in April, when they're telling us, oh yeah, we charge less for Lapeer County Medical Examiner. What's going on here with, this or that, and how are we trying to come up with the revenue? So we're gonna take the ownership of that. I know that it's just, it's daunting on this. So, but appreciate it, and I appreciate you just keep asking. I have no concerns with you, keep asking like, all right, where is this?
Perfect, thank you. I will hold off on the rest of them for now.
Okay. I think Commissioner Long, did you have another question?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else? Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, going through the this amendment, B3 for the clerk, can you help me understand that? You're decreasing.
You're just reallocating the budget from an operating expenditure line item to be more on the personnel side.
Oh, so still within the department?
It's still within the department, it's a net neutral change, it just needs to be moved up into staff because they're the ones that are gonna ask for reimbursement for, for their fees or asking for per diems and it needs to come out from them.
Oh, so this is like what it looks like to do a per diem in a budget book. 'Cause it's just the.
Yeah, and it's all for the Board of Canvassers, yes.
Got it, okay, cool. Thank you. And then I noticed the attorney fees for circuit court there's a 125 in there for them?
Which page are you looking at?
I don't know, I wrote it down here, so I saw it in the up high part, but not the down low part.
Let me look.
Oh, C1. So C1.
The budget, this one was the budget was not included during the budget process, it was forgotten about to include it.
Yeah.
And it needed to reflect actual activity, and so we have to add it back in. So it's basically an omission on our part, and we're correcting it.
So this is not new money to help cover the costs of.
No, it's just to reflect actual activity, that's what's going on in the circuit court.
Oh, okay. Cause they've come and talked to us, just to remind us all, they've come and talked to us a lot about guardian ad litem and other things where it's really hard for them to find attorneys, cause the rate that they're paying attorneys is not I guess, competitive or something.
This was something
This is the
that,
category they missed, Pellet, right?
this was something, during the process, we told them, yes, we're putting this in the budget, and then we missed it.
Okay.
So now we're putting it in the budget.
Cool, thank you for helping me understand that. And then, the other thing was convention tax, so this is in the first page, the second page of the document. We're putting 40%, so we get $14 million from the liquor tax, convention tax. We're putting 40% of that into the, it's 11A, not 11B, but
Yeah, that's the budget book.
yeah. But since this is the amendment, it's still relevant, but Charlie, what page are you on? So go to 11A.
He's in the full budget, not in the attachment.
And in the MR, it'll show,
Oh, right in the MR, okay.
yep, the one, page 25. It's the second to last, be it further resolved.
Yep.
So it says, right, we're putting 5.6 million or 40% of the convention tax into substance abuse and prevention. I just wanna make sure I understand that because we do 9.6 million, don't we, to OCHN from the convention tax? Or we use most of our convention tax money to go to OCHN? So I wanna make sure this is either keeping the OCHN rate the same or increasing it.
I wanna say they're two different things.
Okay.
This is the convention facility tax, it changed from 50%, there was an increase in what we were getting, and then it changed from 50% to 40% of what got sent out. But then there's also the OCHN piece that we have agreed by resolution to pay them $9 million a year. And I think those are two separate things.
Okay.
I apologize for not knowing that off the top of my head.
One of the 8,000 things to know about.
Oh, it's only about 750,000.
Right. Leave it to an accountant to get the numbers right.
I will say on the subject of convention taxes, I'll just throw this out there. So Suburban in Novi, Suburban Showplace, is a privately held convention center.
You know I'm asking, yep.
Well, I have heard from the owner more than once that he's cut out of the convention tax that's collected statewide that goes to Huntington Place and all those other places that are, you know, and he says, I don't get any of that. How can I do that? And I don't have an answer for him, but I'll just throw it out there while we're kind of thinking.
Well, that's part of why I'm actually asking this, because Sean came and said right there a few months ago and said, what I wanna do is take $2 million that would go to mental health from the convention tax and give it to Blair Bowman. And I did not like that, so I wanna make sure we didn't do that. And then I also wanna follow up.
Oh, I didn't know that's where you were going with that, but okay.
Oh, yeah. So he said that.
That doesn't even sound an inkling of familiar to me,
Great.
so.
Okay, good.
That's news to me.
Awesome. Just cause he said it right there in that chair and I was like, damn, bro, that's messed up. But so then I would love to learn, this 5.6 then is for substance abuse and prevention, totally get that, and that's different though than the 9.6 or whatever we get from give to OCHS.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we know where the other 60% goes?
It goes into our non-departmental and it supports the general fund.
Cool, okay, thank you.
And I do want to let you know those on the Huntington Place, they sold bonds recently, so I was part of a conversation is that they had outstanding bonds that were subordinate. So we have the revenue stream coming in and then eventually Oakland County and other counties get their share. They refinanced these subordinated bonds, which came right up to the top to get in the top of the waterfall, and we were assured that the dollars that we would ultimately receive at the end would be the same or greater. So wanted to make, indirectly, we wanted to make sure that as you're relying on those dollars going to certain things, we wanted to make sure that by issuing these bonds, it wasn't gonna cause a reduction of revenues in the waterfall.
Thanks for backing us up. You said that also show that it went from 50% to 40% because there's an increase in the convention?
Yeah, there was a change in how that was all legislated. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know that the instruction to me was when we get the payments, instead of 50%, now it's 40%.
So what had happened under that, it used to be we just got a fixed dollar amount. Right now, they do a reset that the percentage is actually tracking. So we're kind of held harmless as that revenue goes up gross, we get to continue.
Okay. And so then it was a choice then to not just stay at 50% and give substance abuse prevention and treatment just more money? We thought we'd kind of stay at 5.6.
Well, I think the 14 million is what we're, I mean, we can't project in terms of, that's a different source of that, this, call it the sin tax, but if the people that you reduce consumption of certain
Liquor, it's the
Liquor
part of the liquor tax
so if
and it's.
consumption goes down, then I don't wanna budget based on increasing consumption when consumption is flat or could decline.
Okay.
It's on, let me see what page this is on, it's on page 55 where we're talking about the revenues, there's the convention facility and liquor tax description. So it's Public Act 106 and then Public Act 107.
Okay, cool, thank you.
If you need a flow chart, I can send you another document. You mentioned.
I would appreciate that, just to learn. And then I also wanted to just real quick say, when we saw the IT report this time about their surcharge, they don't do a extra surcharge for out-of-county IT services. So is that one of those things when you talk about putting rates in the budget book for next year? That could be an example of one of those.
I think so.
Okay, cool. How does one work with you on moving that forward? Like I keep it on my to-do list and talk to you in October about that?
Sure.
Okay, cool. And then just to be have fun with it a little bit.
I gotta be someplace at 3, so.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, Commerce Township can be like 50 other communities in Oakland County that has their property taxes go to pay for their police. If there is an increase to give to the sheriff, they could bond, they could do a millage. There's all sorts of things, because as we know, budgets are value statements, so when the Commerce Township guy yells at you about these increases, they do have recourse if they really do value the police. Raise your taxes like everyone else did, because that's what we do in Ferndale. That's all, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavell. Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you. I just have 2 comments. Internally, on this board, we have talked about increasing the amount that we give to OCHN. So I just wanna put that on your radar. The amount, the 9 million has stayed the same for a long time, I think over 10 years. There's not been any increase. So I just we can talk about that at another time. And I only wanna say on that $160,000 that we're talking about shifting over to economic development, my understanding was that 160 still stays in the Board of Commissioners. Economic development has to figure out where they get that, but that we aren't losing 160. They're taking it over and it's their responsibility to fund it. That was my understanding. Maybe that isn't correct. I just wanted to clarify, because I don't think it was clear what you were saying. Our understanding, and I talked to Michael Andrews about it yesterday too. That's our understanding is that we're keeping that 160, but because they're economic development, they're getting it. Right. And they have to pay for it.
But there's no money right now in the budget, if it goes right now, if you keep your 160 and it goes over to economic development, that's not budgeted right now.
For 2025?
That's correct.
Okay.
Or
So we
thereafter.
can talk about that,
So that you
but
have-
that was our,
That was my understanding too.
Okay, that's a conversation that's.
Something every year,
Right.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's for the whole county.
I'll talk with you after the meeting as well.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so that was A and B.
Well, we still have to have a vote on.
Oh,
yeah, no, you're right.
ABC.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That was ABC.
Well, it was I look at mine.
Yeah, so we have a motion right now to amend 11A to include sections A, B, and C.
Yes.
Right.
And when the board is ready, you can call for a vote on
Yeah.
that.
So put the vote down, just
Okay.
to amend the budget. Let's do it now.
All right.
It's been long,
Let's prep the
9:30.
vote on
the amendments.
5 hours.
That are listed in sections A, B, and C.
Yeah, I got it once only, so it's like.
And then we'll go down to.
You got bed stores.
Then we'll go to C.
Okay.
Safe.
Alright, so we're doing the budget with A, B, and C amendments, what we're voting on.
We are just voting on the amendments right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Technology.
Sorry, and then we'll be in the next vote.
Long,
Oh, I put yes.
thank you. We have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, we had passed the amendments,
And
those
with-
amendments anyway.
With those sections adopted, we'll move on to item 11C, which is an additional amendment, the Safer Communities Fund.
So I'll speak to that.
I need a motion first. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Gershenson.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as you know, after Oxford and after, a lot of the gun disasters that have been happening, we formed the Safer Communities Fund. The way this fund was going to be funded was from the contracts that the sheriff's department, or that the SROs, the school resource officers, were making with the schools. We would get like $1 per student up to $5,000. That money was to come to the Safer Communities Fund. That really hasn't happened. That fund it is gonna happen, but that fund doesn't have any money right now, zero. I was under the impression when it started, we were going to be funded we got an initial 25,000, right, which we spent. And we spent on things like billboards talking about the 4 new gun safety laws that have gone into effect, the red flag laws. And we have partnered with other groups like End Gun Violence. We partnered with the Wayne County group and we did the same billboard that they did. So all that original 25 is gone. That fund has zero money. So this 25 is to be sure this fund is funded. Not sure how long it's gonna take for that SRO money to filter down into, but that this should be a one-time thing for 25. We'll have to wait and see how much money this fund gets and how we spend, and if we spend it all. So is that clear?
Commissioner Cavell?
Just to say that, yeah, this is funds that are intended to come from school resource officer contracts, I heard you mumbling there, Chris. And so the money is, there's like an ad hoc committee that meets, that Marcia is the chair of, that involves the sheriff and other advocates, and I think a couple other commissioners.
Right.
And so then they decide with these funds. So last year what they did is they spent the $25K on educational billboards and outreach on the new new gun safety laws. And then also part of the Safer Communities Fund can be used for gun buybacks, right? That's a core thing that this can be used for. Because the intention is for safer communities.
But the sheriff also brought us a project. We're open to any commissioners bringing projects to that fund. We're just looking to spend this money on safety projects or safer community projects. Thank you.
Anybody have, Commissioner Rahman?
And Commissioner Gershon, this is coming from general fund or is this coming from BOC? I just wasn't sure.
General fund.
General fund, okay. And this is gonna be a renewable type of?
Well, we're not sure. We're taking it 1 year at a time. Hopefully, the contracts will generate enough income for this committee to function, and that we won't have to come back for that.
Okay. Excuse me. Any other comments or questions? Let's prompt the vote, please. Yes.
Gershenson?
Yes.
Smith Charles? We have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank
Went in
you.
fast.
Okay. Next, we have item 11D, the Prosecuting Attorney's Office Forensic Interview Recording and Storage Systems of Need.
This one now.
Moved by Commissioner Smith Charles, supported by Commissioner Weipert.
This one.
Okay.
I can certainly speak to
Yeah,
it
if you
if needed, but you can see from the attachments that for a long period, Care House has been spending $15,000 to $20,000 on a piece of software and equipment that allow the prosecutor's office to do their job. And so this will be moving that into the prosecutor's budget. They will have the ability to maintain that equipment now. And this is something that came from Commissioner Lubes following watching one of the budget hearings. There's also a letter attached of support from the prosecutor's office.
But this is going to Care House.
No, this money will stay within the county, go to the prosecutor's office, and Care House will still have access to bring the victims to use it, just as they always have. Up until now, Care House was taking on that expense on their own. Now they will not have that need to do it.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, we good?
What that was about.
Let's prompt the vote, please.
Oops. Mine says oops too.
Oh.
It's funny, it says oops.
Robin?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Powell? Oh, Cavell?
Yes.
Smith Charles?
Yes.
Viper?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Yeah, 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have item E.
Actually, we'll go right back to
We're gonna
item
go
A.
right back to item 11A.
Yep.
Now you have to do.
And we already have a motion, and so now we just need to prompt the vote and
You have to
as
say
amended.
As amended, yeah.
As
The
amended.
budget as amended. Oh, we have a vote?
Just once.
You're gonna make the words all.
Yeah, this is as amended, yeah.
As amended.
So you,
County recommended budget as amended.
Came up. Okay, good.
I accidentally logged out.
Oh, see, yeah, see, you're getting anxious, yeah.
Vaughn?
Oh, it didn't take mine, yes.
Viper?
Yes, I voted.
I got seven back.
Mine will count.
Cavell?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Alright, motion carries.
No.
Big step. Now we do item 11E, public notice and public hearing for, September 19th, 2024 at 9:45. AM. Take a motion. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. I would like to just note to everybody that's a morning board meeting
Oh, yeah.
next week.
Oh, I have to bring
In my
breakfast
own
food.
mind, I thought it was at
Me
night, but
too.
it is in the morning.
I was just thinking that now for dinner, I was thinking, cause I'm a food person for everything, I'm doing breakfast.
Yes, I'm coming to your caucus.
Yeah. Bring some good stuff.
Apple cider and donuts?
Sure, yeah.
Whoa, we got a hook
Okay.
up, lemon sugar.
Did
Yeah,
you
no,
vote
listen.
or no?
Yeah, I voted.
I did.
Sorry, I
I
was
did not.
distracted by.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm
Sorry.
voting.
Yeah.
Food. Yeah. I was thinking it was a night.
Thank you.
So sorry, I just said
Ready
that.
for 1 second, Charlie?
Okay, I have to go.
We should.
Okay, I
Go to
just,
my
eggs.
bar.
a second, but I can call you back.
Mr. Hoffman.
Mr. Hoffman.
Some eggs.
What are we voting on?
We
Yeah, I
voted
did.
eggs.
I thought.
Got it now.
Hey,
Smith
good.
Charles?
Yes.
Cavell?
Yes.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Awesome. Next, we have our second public comment. Is there anybody here from the public that cares to address this committee at this time?
Well, since I'm not really a member of this committee, I'll say
Commissioner
it's been
Gershenson?
real.
Yeah.
It's been quite an experience.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Woo, thanks for
Yeah.
having me. Commend everybody, it's been
Yeah, and I
really
just
something.
wanna again thank the commission or the committee. I mean, it's a lot of work in the month of August and September to actually push this baby through, and thanks to our friends in fiscal and management budget.
Ebro.
And
HR.
Yeah.
And HR, because
Keeps us in line over there.
my personal experience is that this feels less rushed and less questions, less loose ends than in previous years. And I do think it's because there's been such an effort to communicate every meeting with management, budget, and fiscal, and the departments. And I think a lot of discussions took place, out of this room that cleared up a lot of things. And this list to me was pretty easy to follow. So I really appreciate all the work that everybody has done. It's zillions of hours, so.
Thank you, Commissioner, and for those, I wanna thank Mike Keys, is
Yeah,
you know,
Mike.
everything he said was, you know, thanks to him and wisdom.
Absolutely
Yeah.
true. Absolutely true. So if there's no other business to come before this group, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Gotta stand up.